Hello, and welcome to this presentation on teaching adolescents and working with teachers of adolescents. This presentation will cover some insights into how to work with adolescents, and then also what kinds of assessments can fuel instruction too as well, and different kinds of aspects and also different kinds of characteristics too of adolescent learners. All right, so first of all, what are they? So, what are the comprehensive adolescent reading programs, and kind of like what are the key components to these kinds of programs that reading specialists and also general education teachers design for students? So, it's really important, first of all, to build relationships. You want to make sure that you're able to trust and create a supporting environment where kids are feel welcome and nurtured, and just that they can communicate openly in your classroom in order to make sure that their needs and concerns, and also strengths and things that they want to talk about and showcase too as well, are heard. It's really important to understand the adolescent's needs, so make sure that you're tailoring instruction to meet their specific goals that they need to obtain, and you're using assessment, like I said before, to kind of drive instructional practices. Make sure that you're using texts and topics that are really engaging, things that kids, adolescents want to learn about, their interests and experiences. And you can do this by polling kids to find out exactly what kinds of topics, because every group is different, and your that come to you every period and every year, those kinds of things. Make sure that you're reading diverse and relevant reading materials, different genres. Also, make sure that different cultures are represented, and backgrounds and perspectives too, as well. The beauty of critical literacy is that we're able to kind of hear different perspectives in reading in order to kind of develop a richer understanding for different kinds of things in the world, and just for an appreciation, and that we can kind of see things from different perspectives in order to appreciate someone else's life a little bit better. And then also too, that just make sure that it's geared towards student interests and experiences too. We want to make sure that our instruction's explicit, so that we teach comprehension skills. These can be, through the gradual release of learning that we model. We provide time for practice, and that we also provide time for remodeling or more guided practice, and then also individualized practice too as well, because that's a better rate of transfer. So that if I teach children how to summarize in my reading class, that they're hopefully able to transfer that learning when they go into science, and at home when they're doing homework, or eventually into like the years later, as they go throughout school. So it's really important to make sure that we're modeling these practices, and that we're providing time for feedback too, and that they are eventually going to try it on their own. That we are encouraging critical thinking too as well. The beauty and the wonderful thing about reading is when kids can kind of like, you know, see ideas and hear different perspectives, and kind of critique and work in small groups and engage in this wonderful discussion that they're fueled because it's an exciting topic that they want to talk about. It's also important too that we're building in their academic vocabulary too, their working lexicon as they go through with rich words. We want to make sure that we're integrating writing instruction, that we encourage writing in various, genres, that we're responding to the text too as well, that students have time to read something and then maybe journal about it, or provide kind of insights about it, and that we're also teaching the writing process too, that we're going through what exactly good writers do, and we're modeling different kinds of skills that the children might need in order to put in that particular writing assignment. Again, with the gradual release of learning. Okay, and then differentiation and technology, that it's really important that we differentiate. We're going to have kids that come into a middle school classroom, but for instance, say we'll take a 7th grade middle school classroom, you might have kids reading at the 5th grade level or below, and you might have kids reading at like an 8th or a 9th grade level in a 7th grade classroom or higher. So it's really important that we understand and we, do some types of quick assessments or whatever, kind of get a feel for our reading levels, and that way we can do grouping and stuff like that too. And we do small grouping and we use fluid groups in our classroom and flexible grouping for different skills, that we kind of gain, okay, like I know where these students are and I know where this student is and I know what skills and strategies I need to focus on. And I know that my student's going to frustrate with this text because it might be too difficult. Again, this kind of leads to individualized support. And then also we can provide more challenging and accelerate instruction too, as well, for the students who might need that, so that they don't, aren't bored or anything like that in our classroom. Digital literacy, we want to incorporate digital text, audiobooks, all those great things. Audiobooks are so beneficial too, especially for struggling readers, when they can listen and see the words on the page and just hear that good reading. Because if they're, struggling with it and they might be listening to their own reading, that might, hinder their performance. In order to strengthen that, it's really important to think outside the box and incorporate other kinds of things, especially when students are doing independent reading. Interactive tools, use technology tools like reading apps, online discussion, platforms, multimedia projects to engage students. That there's all different kinds of things. You might use Google Classroom in your classroom. You might use, other kinds of different kinds of things that they can even make notes on and stuff, and interactive tools through Google or other kinds of sites too. And then engagement and motivation. It's really important that students, adolescent readers, are really engaged, that they take ownership of their learning. And how we can do that is really find out about their interests and what will engage them, what will motivate them. Promote through group discussions. That, it's really important that we have time for kids to collaborate and hear different perspectives. That way they can grow in their critical literacy too, as well, and become critical thinkers, and then hear other people's perspectives in order to develop more of an open mind. Like, oh, I didn't look at it from that point of view. It's really important. And we need to model these types of things initially. And then finally, real world connections is kind of where we get more macro ideas too, as well. That, okay, if the micro from the text talks about how, that it's important for us to kind of, have an open sense of a heart or whatever too, as well, for when people are going through troubled times in their life, because the character in our book went through something that was troubling, that I can apply that to my own life. When I see people who might be struggling, or, a friend or something like that, I can reach out in order to help them. And, these are types of things that I have seen too, as well, or maybe in my own life. It's really important that we focus more on the macro ideas. That way it's not just like, oh yeah, in the book there was a cat, and at home I have a cat. No, well, like, it taught about how responsibility, and I have to take responsibility in my own life, and in the world too. I see people and role models that are taking responsibility, and these are some examples. All right. And then always use assessment to drive your instruction. And then in order to drive your instruction further, when you're not, formally assessing, but then progress monitoring too, as well. So you want to have, a baseline assessments that you do initially for how you're going to plan future instruction. And then also, you also want to make sure that you conduct, informal assessments and kind of evaluate over all growth in reading and proficiency too. And always have your data there to inform your instruction, but then also progress monitor to make sure that you are meeting goals and whether or not you have to adjust your instruction. So progress monitoring is not only feedback for the students on meeting their goals, but it's also feedback for you as a instructor, to make sure that you are adjusting to meet their needs too, as well, or where you might have to revisit something or along those lines. All right. And then supporting and coaching teachers. So if you are working as a reading specialist, it's really important too that you demonstrate effective literacy strategies in the classroom, that you're providing, models and showcasing what proficient lessons would look like with, goals and objectives and the gradual release of responsibility, and that you're providing instructional and ongoing feedback, encouraging, setting goals with teachers too, as well, for things that they want to grow on and work on, and helping them become the best person and teacher that they can become. And then also a time it's really important to reflect on yourself, and have opportunities for teachers to reflect on their themselves too, as well, to set new goals and to make sure that they're improving their instruction. It's all, you know, really important, that, and it kind of can fuel professional development too, as well, and goals in teaching careers. And this leads into professional development, so that you can support teachers by providing training in particular kinds of areas of research or effective instructional strategies, or something that the teacher might be wanting to focus a goal on. And then also foster a professional learning community where you can share ideas and collaborate based on a piece of, course, research material that you might be reading, or videos that you might be watching. It's all very important. Finally, family and community engagement. You want to make sure that you're finding ways to reach out to support, your students at home too, as well, and encourage reading and literacy-based activities, and just kind of what parents can be doing at home. And then also recognizing when a child's doing something awesome in school too, as well, and just have that homeschool connection. Also in the community too, as well, how can we showcase and share this love of literacy, and promote, family unity and literacy and community, and collaboration with the school. And you can do this through different kinds of things at your local library, maybe having some kind of presentation, or you can do this through literacy organizations. You can also do this through like a family literacy night too initiative as well, where you kind of either put books in children's hands, or you're doing something at your school to where you're showcasing all kinds of different kinds of things you can do with literacy through games and reading, and just kind of fun activities. So there's all different ways that you can promote that in your school too. So finally, creating a literacy-rich environment. Just make sure that the classroom libraries are well stocked, and that they have a range of books in different genres. You have reading space. You have like comfortable areas for, especially when your room is, has the ability to incorporate that too, as well, where you have inviting areas for kids to kind of read. So a safe and inclusive environment. Any barriers that might hinder reading, make sure that they're also supported and addressed too, as well, through different resources that you have within your school. And then just kind of, emphasize the joy of reading, that, your personal enrichment. I always bring in critical literacy here because it's so powerful. It's so powerful to, think like, oh, I don't agree with this, or I do agree with this, and this is why. That kind of fuels excitement, and enriches a child's experience with literacy, and that they continue hopefully to read throughout life. So that will conclude the presentation. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions on adolescent literacy and how different components come into play, please reach out. Thank you.